Yes, exactly. As you say, when we start a score, we don't think about the release of a CD. We even like usually, I mean, it will not happen so much. I mean, depending on the movie, because there's not much market for a soundtrack release afterwards. So it's always a pleasure when it's happening. But we never think about that beforehand. We just write the score, and afterwards, if a record label is interested and approaches us, it's like surprise, or it can be a mistake. Oops, I didn't mean to call you.
With each one of those? Once I moved out to LA, like Entrada was just like from afar via email. They took a chance on me, and then I guess they liked me enough to keep throwing me the occasional project. It was pretty sporadic. Once I moved out here, I was trying to kind of get to know people. I think Lucas Kendall was he was one of the first people I actually met in person once I moved out here. And everybody kind of knows everybody. It's a pretty small community. So I eventually met the La La Land guys and let them know that's what I wanted to do. And so they took a chance on me. And then once I'd been doing this for a while, it wasn't too hard to convince Quartet or Varese that it was, I knew what I was doing.
Well, we were talking about before, one of the first was Varese Sarabande. There was Crescendo Records, there was La La Land, there were, and of course, a little bit later, Entrada came in. And I would say probably now Entrada is probably the foremost of the bunch. They probably do, I would say, more than just about anybody. A lot of my soundtracks have been done through Entrada. But the expectations also have changed. So before, if you did a movie for Paramount, or if you did a movie for Sony, MGM, or what have you, to be able to go to them and say, you guys own the rights for this, we'd like to put it out. If you're the record company, we'd like to put it out. For a long time, they weren't interested because there was so little money involved. Very, very little money. Unless you had a big hit movie on your hand. That was a whole other scenario. But
okay, when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, there were technically no soundtrack labels. There was RCA, there was, just the big studio labels that were releasing soundtracks. I don't think the soundtrack labels that were specific to soundtracks came into play until, you'll find out soon enough, maybe Varese Sarabande, maybe Bay Cities was after Varese. That's a great question that you should actually get an answer to, because I couldn't tell you exactly when the boom was, but I could tell you that in the late 80s was when Varese started its club, mail order club, which those were specific titles that every time they came out it was such a big deal, and we would race to. I went directly to Varese and knocked on their door and picked up mine in person because they were so exciting. But during that period is probably when it could have been with Varese. That's probably a question for somebody, a guy like Richard Kraft, that could say this was the first record on the first label.